Hello there, it's Sarah from Paper Lovely. Thanks for joining me today. I'm back with part 2 of my 10 cards 1 kit using the Simon Says Stamp December 2018 card kit. So I have once again decided to start out doing some watercoloring. This is the other watercolor panel that came in the kit. And I was in the mood for some bright colors. So I'm going to use my Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers. And I'm not blending any of the markers together, I'm just using the color straight out of the marker, and then I'll grab my brush, and I've got a cup of water here, and I'll just use that to blend that color out. Gives it a really nice graded look. I'm going to go ahead and turn up the music here. I have left in the full coloring, but I've sped it up quite a bit. So if you want to skip ahead, you want to go to around the 3-minute, 30-second mark, and that will take you to the point where I start finishing up the card. So now that my watercoloring is dry, I am going to trim this panel down to 4x5 1/4. And once again, I added some foam tape behind that just to help in case there was a little bit of warping. I'm going to place that here on top of my card base, and this is a card base made from Nina Solar White. For the inside, I'm working on a Nina panel trimmed to 4x5 1/4. And I've pulled out one of my sentiments from that Mama Elephant Jingle Greeting stamp set, and I'm going to stamp that here using Lawn Fun Juice Box ink. I'll add some ATG to the back of that and go ahead and place it on the inside of my card base. And that will complete card number 6. For card number 7, I'm going to again do some watercoloring, but this time I'm going to use some Distress Oxide inks. So I wanted to do a little bit of a resist here, and I've grabbed the sentiment Sending Christmas Cheer as well as the snowflakes. I'm working on my Fabriano, my favorite Fabriano 140-pound hot press watercolor paper. And I've trimmed that out just slightly larger than a regular card base. So I'm laying my plastic panel on there so I can see what the size of my card front is going to be. I wanted to have some hanging off the edges, but still have it look pretty full. So I stamped those out using Versamark ink, and then I went ahead and heat set them with my Simon Says Stamp Fine Detail White Embossing Powder. I did go back in a second time and add a few smaller snowflakes in the center. You'll see those start to show up as I add down the watercolor here. And the colors I'm using are all Distress Oxide. I'm using the Festive Berries that came in the kit, and I'm mixing with that Twisted Citron, Peacock Feathers, and Seedless Preserves. And then you will see a little bit later I'm going to pull in some peeled paint because the green was looking a little too yellow, so I wanted to make that a little bit more green. And what I ended up with was this really cool galaxy looking background. So I again have left the full process in here for you. It's pretty quick. I've sped it up to about 6 times usual speed. So I'm just showing you how I've layered things down and how I was working to try and stop that center from getting muddy there. You'll see I pull a little bit up, I dry, I add a little bit more until I finally had something that I was happy with. Just like with that deer panel, I wanted to add some snowdrops, so I have again grabbed my mister that has the opaque white paint. I'm going to spread a little bit of that on my acrylic block, and then I will splatter that all over to create some snow. But again, now that it's finished, it kind of reads more like a galaxy to me, and I'm happy with that either way. I've gone ahead and popped that up with some Scotch foam tape, and I'll place that down on the top of my card base, which is again made from Neenah 80-pound Solar White. For the inside, I am stamping on a Neenah panel trimmed to 4x5¼ and I'm stamping out the sentiment to you and yours, adding a few snowflakes around here, and I'm stamping those out using that Distress Oxide Festive Berries that came in the kit. I'll go ahead and add my ATG behind that, and then I'll place that on the inside of my card base. And that will complete card number 7. For card number 8, I had this idea that I wanted to make Mrs. Claus's sort of cookie tray. So I'm using my MFT Blueprints 32 frame die, and I'm going to be using both pieces of this. I just wanted to pop up the edge of that baking sheet. So here I've grabbed one of the green card bases that came in the kit. I'm adding some AdTech removable tape just on 2 of the corners of that frame die. And I'm just going to use that to make sure that I get my center lined up properly. I'll add some ATG to the back of that, and then I'm going to place that down here. Then I'll go ahead and peel away that frame, and I've added a layer of Scotch foam tape behind that. And I'm going to carefully put this down. Now, you'll see when I get to the very last corner, the frame portion kind of crinkles a little bit, and I'm not sure why that happened. I think it's probably because I was pulling to make it fit, and it was going to fit. I should have just left it be. But what I ended up doing, and I left this off camera for the sake of time, was I just went ahead and cut out one more of the frames, and then I layered that right on top of it, and that got rid of the bubbling for me. So there I've got my tray completed, And I had thought that I would leave that sticker, loves my secret ingredient, but I couldn't get it a way that I liked it. So you'll see I have it there, and then eventually I will take it away. But I started off just looking at the stickers, and I knew that I wanted to use this gingerbread cookie. And then I started looking for other stickers that could plausibly be cookies that she would have made. So I ended up pulling in both of the ornaments and that really cute truck with the tree in the back, and then I'll also end up adding in 2 of the candy canes just to fill that out and make it look like an actual baking tray. I did then take that Mrs. Claus sticker there, and I've added that on some poppy cardstock and just trimmed that out, leaving a little bit of an edge. And then I'm going to add some ATG, and I'm going to place that in the center of my of the inside of my card. And that will complete card number 8. For card number 9, I'm using this red and white checked pattern paper, and I've trimmed that down to 4 by 5 1/4. I'm going to place that here on top of one of the card bases. And then I really liked this North Pole cut apart, but I wanted to add a little something more. So I ended up taking a piece of this glittery washi tape. This is from my stash, and I think it's my mind's eye, but I'm not positive. So I've added a stripe there just to sort of give me a base to start working off of. And then I liked this house better than the one that was on the cut apart. So I'm going to layer that. And then I grabbed the larger tree that matches the ones on the cut apart. And I'm just figuring out a placement for that there. I wanted to try and get all 3 across, but still make it so that you could read the sentiment. And I just managed to make it work. Okay, so once I'm happy with that, I'm going to add some ATG to the back of the cut apart, and then I will place that down on my card front. And then finally I felt like it needed one more thing, so I grabbed that North Pole arrow sticker and I placed that there under the house. For the inside, I used another one of the stickers. This reads, "Here Comes Santa Claus." And then I added a few of these snowflake stickers around that. And that will complete card number 9. For card number 10, I'm going to make a shaker, and I'm using the leftover piece from that second frame that I cut out for the cookie sheet card. I've taken my 3-inch Sizzix circle die and I've placed that in the center of that panel. I'm going to cut the circle out here. And then I'm lining this up for my sentiment. I put 2 together for it to say "A Very Merry Christmas." And I originally stamped that out using my unicorn ink, but it didn't like the way it looked. It was a little smushed. So I let that dry, hit it with my heat gun to make sure it was nice and dry, and then put my powder tool over top of it. Here I'm stamping it out with Versamark ink, and then I went ahead and embossed that with Simon Says Stamp Fine Detail White. I've grabbed some Scor-Tape and placed that around the edges of my opening. And then there you'll see I've got a piece of acetate, and I'm going to place that down behind the circle. And here I'm going to create my well to hold my sequins. So I am using a double layer of my foam tape. And I think I've mentioned it before, but one of my favorite things that I found this year were these smaller rolls of foam tape. It has saved me so much time to just purchase the smaller cut rolls than to sit there and constantly trim apart the 1/2-inch rolls. You get a little bit less, but I think it's really, really worth it for the time that it saves me. So there I've grabbed the sequins that came in the kit and placed a clump of those down. I did hit the back of my window there with some of my powder tool so that the sequins wouldn't stick. I've grabbed the opposite of the candy cane that I made in yesterday's video, and I'm gluing that down on top of the acetate here. And then I've got a red bow, which was also part of the die cut. I'm gonna place those two pieces together here, and then I will glue that on top of the candy canes. For the inside, I'm again on a Nina panel, trimmed to 4x5 1/4, and I'm gonna add the sentiment to you and yours using my intense black ink there. And then I'll grab a leftover piece of this red and white stripe pattern paper, add some ATG to the back of that, and I'll place that along the bottom. I'll add some ATG to the back and then place that on the inside of my card base. And that will complete card number 10. Here are a few close-ups of the finished cards. In the description box below, you'll find my blog post, which has additional photos and links to the supplies I used. If you enjoyed the video, please leave me a comment or a thumbs up and subscribe for more. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.